Hello, it's me, Danny Haze again. And before I went to bed, I wanted to do one more journal entry. I think tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about my first premeditated murders. There's actually two of them. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I killed my father and brother. My brother was kind of a victim of circumstance. My father definitely got what he deserved. But I guess it starts with after Steve died. As you already know, my parents were already going through a divorce. That murder, I guess you can call it, had left my father a little estranged from me. He didn't want to see me. He very quickly gave me up in the custody battle. So I spent my junior high and high school years living with my mother. And so my older brother ended up with my father far more than myself. We had a decent relationship. He was pretty empathetic about the whole situation, but I guess I just always kind of resented him for being able to have the time with my dad that he did. And I always resented my father for just kind of shooing me aside. I mean, it's just such an asshole thing to do. What kind of decent father just throws away their child? But, so, when I was in my sophomore year of college, my brother was in his senior year. My brother was living off campus. He'd rented a house with a couple friends, and I was still living in the dorms. My brother and I had some mutual friends. We actually had a lot in common, as much as I hated the guy. But I always put on a friendly face for him because he was family. And around that time, my sophomore year, my father got sick. And while he was in the hospital, contracted pneumonia. And the doctors told us that he didn't have much longer left. And when my father found out, he got us all together, my mom, my brother, and I, to share with us his will. And it was really kind of a dickhead thing to do. Because he basically had my mom and I there to tell us that we weren't getting anything. He initially left us with jack shit. And left my older brother everything. And there was a substantial amount to be left behind. My father had been a railroad worker in Chicago for over 30 years. And he had his 401k, he had other stocks and investments, which my mom didn't end up getting in a divorce because she just wanted to get away from him. After my father cheated on her, she just wanted to end it. The only reason the divorce took as long as it did was because of the custody battle. My mom didn't care about any of the money. So after the divorce, my mom and I were left to fend for ourselves because my father didn't give a damn and didn't do anything to take care of us. The child support checks came regularly, but there was so much more he could have done. But he didn't give a damn. He was the custodial parent of my brother, so he didn't feel the need to take care of my mom and I because he hated me after what happened with Steve. And so after that, and my father was sick and told us that my mom and I weren't getting anything, I was furious. Like, what kind of an asshole doesn't leave us with anything? I can understand him not leaving my mom with anything. I get that. They were divorced. But I'm his fucking kid, and he couldn't leave me a penny? He had a house completely paid off, no mortgage on it, left that to my brother. His investments he left to my brother. All of the life insurance gone to my brother. And it was just so wrong, and I fucking hated my brother for it. And that was the first time I decided that I was gonna kill somebody intentionally. And so what I had done was I went online and found out how to make this paste, and it was really easy to make, where you mix styrofoam with gasoline. It's very flammable, but it's also like a putty, so it's really easy to mold. It's not necessarily like a plastic explosive, but it's a similar concept where you can mold it and put it where you want it, and it'll light, and you've got yourself a controlled flame. And so I mixed up enough of this paste so that since my brother was living off campus and renting this house, I had lined the bottom of the house all the way around. I had lined all the way around his windows. I had lined his doors, so that once this fire started, he couldn't get out of any of the exits. But before I lit this, I had taken a drive over to Dayton, Ohio, and because it wasn't too far away. It was easy for me to have enough cash on hand to drive back home, and the reason I went there was because I needed an alibi. And I rented a hotel room for the weekend, and after I rented the hotel room, I found a homeless guy. I gave him my card and said, "Hey, use this card as much as you want for whatever you need. I'm going to cancel the card in a week." So he did that, and when I got back home, I went to my brother's place, and I lit his house on fire while he was sleeping. And I hid across the street, and it was I still remember hearing him scream and hearing him bang on the walls and trying to open the windows, but the glass was too hot. He was burning his hands anytime he tried to do anything, and he was just trapped in there. It was like, if you know, male cats are very, very territorial. They don't like being around other male cats. If you put two of them and cage them in an upside-down hamper, they'll fight. And you'll hear the hissing and you'll hear the scratching and the fighting. And it's kind of what it sounded like inside my brother's home as he burnt alive. And so after that, I took the bucket over to a friend of his house. They were having a big fight. Go figure, over a woman. It's always a woman. And left the bucket in his dorm room. Put it under his bathroom sink while he was at class. And so when the police came around, talking to people about who might have known anything, they called me while I was in Ohio. They found out I was staying at the hotel, and I told them that I knew my brother and this other guy were fighting. And so the police went over there, investigated the dorm room, and and they found the bucket with some of the remaining putty left. And I remember when I got home watching the news story and seeing the look on this guy's face, because he had no idea what was going on and how this bucket ended up in his dorm room. And he kept saying, I was framed, and of course he was, but nobody believed him. And he ended up getting convicted for my brother's murder. After my brother's murder, I went to visit my father in the hospital, and like a good son would, I consoled him, and he apologized to me for everything he had done wrong and told me that he wanted to make it right before he passed away. But, I mean, in my mind, how much of a dumbass, how can he, in one evening of apologizing, make up for years of being a shitty father? So I had with me at the time a syringe filled with potassium. You'd be surprised how easily it is to obtain potassium. There's plenty of chemistry companies online that are willing to sell you almost any element. So I got some potassium. I got it into liquid form, put it into a syringe, and I cut my hand over my father's mouth while he was lying, and he was too weak to fight back. And I just looked him right in the eye and said, "I don't forgive you. I'll never, ever forgive you. I hate you. And because you were such an asshole, because you left your own flesh and blood hanging, you're gonna die." And I injected him with a syringe, and he tried with what little strength remained to fight me off, but there was nothing he could do. And as he passed away, when the heart monitor showed his heart rate going flat, I screamed for a nurse. I was the sorrowful son of a dying man, and they bought it. They bought every fucking line of it. I mean, the murder of my father and brother was just truly amazing. I mean, it was a perfectly planned double homicide. And my father had it coming. I forgot to mention, while I was consoling him and while he was apologizing, he recorded a new last will and testament for me, which left myself with everything. The $450,000 in investments. I got the house, so my mother and I had a good place to live. So when I came home from college, we had a house, paid off free and clear, no debt on it. And I also got the life insurance money, $250,000 in life insurance, which I ended up using when I got into the insurance business. It was some of my startup capital. I also bought a house with it. I used it to be an upstanding citizen. And yeah, I took care of my mom. She was always there for me, always. But when it came to the funeral, a lot of people were angry with me because I didn't buy him a funeral. I had him cremated as soon as possible. And as I drove away from the funeral home that cremated him, I just threw the urn out the window. I didn't care about this guy. And I wasn't about to throw some funeral or memorial service for such a dick. I wasn't about to sit there for 3 hours or more listening to people tell stories about how great of a guy my dad was. And all the while, these people, just because he's dead, forget about all of the bullshit he pulled. Forget about how much of a fucking jackass he was, and how he left his ex-wife hanging, and how he completely abandoned his child because he couldn't deal with somebody that his kid accidentally killed. And I was, no, fuck him. Like, he did not deserve the funeral. He deserved the death. He deserved worse of a death than what he got. I let him off easy. But, anyway, after that, some of the consequences, obviously, my mom and I were taken care of. But in my own mind, I guess, Steve is when I gained the capability to kill. When I killed my father and brother, that's when I became detached from humanity. I no longer looked at people, but as a means to my own ambitions. My friends now were friends because they served a purpose. And no one until now ever knew the truth about my brother and father's deaths. And yeah, so that is how I got away with killing them. And yeah, so I'll be back more later with more stories for you. Have a good one.